As many of you know, I grew up Catholic, went to church from the earliest memories. I remember going to church. And I always liked, and in our Catholic service, the kids' church was after church. I guess so the parents could have a break and go get groceries. But so we kids had to sit through church, and then we would go to Sunday school afterwards. And I always remember liking to sit by my dad because he had the beefier shoulder, so if I fell asleep, it was more comfortable than my mom's bony shoulder. And I remember asking my mom, like, okay, so there's like 3 prayers and 2 songs left, right? Like, when can we leave? I had it down by prayers and songs. That's the way I thought of it. So I grew up Catholic. All through school, I was in CYO, which was Catholic Youth Organization, a high school group, kind of like Young Life these days. And we had fun. We went to camp, and we did haunted hay rides. I had my first kiss at a CYO party. It was a lot of fun, and I loved it. And so when I went to college, I was one of the few college kids who actually got out of bed after going to the bars the night before, and stamps on my hand and probably on my forehead from sleeping, and I would still go to church because that's what you do. Because as a Catholic, I was taught that not going to Catholic church on Sunday was a sin. Like, they even told us, you can go to another church's service, but if you don't also come to Catholic church, you are sinning. And I thought that was a sin, it was a requirement. It was an obligation that every Sunday you go to church so you can check the box and be a good Christian, and that way you can get into heaven and God will be happy with you. And I had this idea that you get God's love by earning it. By doing these good things, by checking all the boxes. Don't lie, don't kill, don't steal, don't cheat, go to church. And that's what I thought God was. And that's what I thought church was. I thought church was a place that you go as an obligation on Sunday to put your time in. And for the longest time, that is what I thought God wanted. And then one day I went to a volleyball tournament and I met some people and they invited me to this mega church called Crossroads. And when I walked in there, they've got this huge atrium. If you've ever been to Crossroads for a weighted or anything, there's coffee stand and soft drinks, and there's no pews when you first walk in, and you're like, I don't even know how to get into where the service is. Like, I had to go ask for directions. And you can get your coffee or your soft drink and go sit down in these cushy chairs, and it's like a theater, and there's a rock band, and there are funny videos. And like one time the pastor rode his motorcycle out on stage. Like, it was crazy. And I was like, this is what church is? Like, what is this? I thought it was very strange, but also the message was so good that I was like, I think I want to come back. And so I thought, I'll do like Catholic church half the time and I'll do this half the time. Well, I never went back to Catholic church. Because the Catholic Church, like so many churches, was short on people, and so they started recruiting priests from India, and the church I had settled on had an Indian pastor. He was a very nice man, but very hard to understand. And I was wishing for my dad's beefy shoulder, because I would often be like nodding off, trying to stay awake. But when I went to Crossroads, I never nodded off. I felt like he was speaking to me. And not only that, but God in his goodness brought me to Crossroads through people that I had met at this party after a volleyball outing. And these people would go to church and they would go to lunch and then we would go play volleyball or do salsa dancing or whatever. And I got involved in this group of people. And we were at church 3-4 nights a week. We were in Bible studies and small groups, and there was a group. Crossroads was the kind of place where if you had an idea and you came to them and said, hey, I think we should do a mission trip, they're like, cool, you can lead it. How can we support you as you lead this thing? And so this guy, John Mark, after Katrina, he said, I think we should do a mission trip to New Orleans and help build houses that have been devastated by Katrina. And they're like, cool, how can we support you as you lead it? And so I got in with these group of people who were going to New Orleans, and I ended up on the leadership team. So, I was there. I was literally at the church 3 to 4 nights a week. And I never felt like I had to be there. It never felt like an obligation. I was never like, go to church and try to stay awake. And it totally revolutionized and changed my idea of what church is supposed to be. Because I grew up, here's the church and here's the steeple, look inside and here's the people. If you guys remember that, right? I thought church was the building. I thought church was the meeting on Sunday that you're obligated to go to. Crossroads helped me understand that God doesn't want obligation. He doesn't want to be a God of you have to. God is a God of love, and he wants to have a relationship with you, and he's part of a family. God is a part of a family, and a church should be like a family. A church should be like, when I go see my parents out for Christmas or whatever, I'm like, all right, I guess I have to go see my parents. I'm like excited to go see my parents. I want to see my brother and my nieces. I never feel like it's an obligation so that they put me in the will. But I think a lot of people see church as an obligation so you get put in the will. That is never what church was supposed to be. If you look at the Bible, and a lot of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came because a lot of the Jewish leaders were making it sound like church was what I thought it used to be. This obligation where you check the boxes to try to be a good person so maybe God will be happy with you. And Jesus is like, man, no, it's not what it's supposed to be like. Hold up, you guys have it all wrong. Church is supposed to be a group of people living together, doing things together, meeting together, working together to bring each other strength, working together to understand God more, encouraging each other when we're down. If you look at the New Testament, if you look at the way Jesus did life, yes, Jesus went into the synagogues and he taught. A lot of times he was kicked out because what he taught they didn't like, because he was teaching them it's not the old way. And they didn't like that. They were like, no, this is the way we know how it's supposed to be. Don't rock the boat. And they would kick him out. And so he's like, fine, I'll take my message to the streets. And he would go and he would tell them the truth. That God is a God of love. God is a God of relationship, not obligation. Church is supposed to be about a group of people coming together to build each other up. Like when I was at Crossroads, I wasn't going to worship service 3 or 4 nights a week. I would go to worship service 1 day a week, and then I'd have a small group that would meet, and I would have a Bible study that would meet, and we'd be planning our mission trips together. That is what it's supposed to be like. And usually, afterwards, we would go eat, we would go hang out. It was this community of people that was hanging out. I was in charge of birthday parties, and I got to the point where I was inviting 150 people. Like, okay, we can't celebrate just Skylar this month because there's Skylar and George and Mel all have birthdays, so we're just going to have a January birthday party. And we're going to celebrate everybody whose birthday's in January. And I was inviting 150 people. Not too many people have a house that holds 150 people. It started to get really hard to find a place to go. But that's how inclusive this community was. And that's how I got invited. Because someone was having a house party. Mel brought Demaya today. That's how it's supposed to be. Yes, we can put out advertisements, but Mel should be like, yeah, I go here. It's cool. You should come. That's how the church grows. That's how we share the truth of who God is. Sunday service is great, and I want you all to keep coming. But it's not supposed to be just come to check the box out of obligation. If you read the Bible, there's 2 books, the Old Testament or the Old Way, and the New Testament, which is the New Way. And Jesus came, his ministries, the first 4 books are written by 2 of them were his guys, 2 of them were not. And they're talking about Jesus' life and what he did. Then the 5th book is called the Acts of the Apostles. The 5th book picks up right after Jesus died. What happens? How did people respond afterwards? The Jewish leaders thought if we just kill this guy, then all this fervor will die out and we can go back to the old way it was. Because we like it the way it used to be. If we can just kill this radical guy, this rabble-rouser, then we can go back to the old way of thinking. But Jesus had been so effective that his people were like, we don't want to go back to the old way. Jesus came to bring a new way. So the New Testament is basically the new way, the new covenant. And the new way is meeting together. So if we look in the book of Acts, if you want to see what church is supposed to look like, read the book of Acts. It's not very long. And in the book of Acts, I got 2 verses for you. It says in Acts 4, all the believers were of one heart and mind. That means that they were coming together, agreeing with each other, encouraging each other, talking about, I think this, well, what do you think about this? And they were like having these conversations and helping each other understand things better. It says, no one claimed any of their possessions as they owned. They shared everything. They shared everything. That means if someone needs a car to drive and I have an extra car, you can have my car. Or heck, I'm not using my car. I walk to work. You want to use my car for the week? That's fine. They share what they have. It says, with great power, they continued to testify. They went out and they taught. They went out and they told people about Jesus. Testify means they were telling the story of Jesus. They were telling how Jesus had changed their lives. And it says God's grace was so powerfully at work in them because they were getting closer to God, because they were meeting together regularly, because they were telling everybody what God had done for them, that no one was needy. Because they just shared stuff. From time to time, if someone had excess, they would sell it and bring that money from the sales to be put to work where it needed to be put. And it was distributed to those who had need. And it also says, this is in Acts 2, it says they devoted themselves to the teachings, the apostles' teachings. The apostles were Jesus' dudes. And that means people wanted to learn. They wanted to do Bible studies. It wasn't like, oh, I have to go to this Bible study so that God will love me. It was like, I want to know more. I want to learn more. I want to start reading this Bible. I want to talk about this. Can someone help me understand this? I feel like it means this. Well, wait, no, I kind of feel like it means this. Well, then how do you reconcile this? And it was this meeting of the minds as they talked about it. And then they were in fellowship. They broke bread. They prayed. That means when they got together, they ate. They prayed for each other. You know, when you're going through a tough time, even though someone might not be able to fix your problem, to know that they're praying for you, to know that you can call them up and be like, man, today sucked. That is super helpful. That gives us the strength when we don't have it. I'm strong and you're weak. Okay, I'm going to prop you up this time. Because next time, I'm going to be in the reverse. You're going to be strong and I'm going to be weak. I've got some little extra money. You're broke. Here you go. Let me help you out. That's what it looked like. It said everyone was filled because they were coming together, because they were getting close to God, because they were all praying for each other, and God came into that. There were wonders, there were signs. That means when people prayed, stuff happened. One of the apostles was thrown into jail and he was killed right away before they could pray. And then the bad guys were like, hey, that was fun. Let's do it to another one. And they found his brother, and they took him to prison. They were going to kill him, but the apostles, the church, got together, and they started to pray. They had time to pray, and you know what? The doors of the prison literally just flung open. He walked out of jail. That was the power of prayer. People were healed. People, like, provision came. That is the power. When we get together, and we get close to God, and we are rooted in God, and we are devoting ourselves to God, devoting ourselves to each other, and praying intentionally for each other and our needs, then God shows up. He says all the believers were together and they had everything in common. I love shows like Friends, How I Met Your Mother, Steel Magnolias. There's a new Sweet Magnolias that's on Netflix. I love shows like that where there's this core group of 3 to 5, 6, whatever, friends. And they're together all the time. And Friends, I'm dating myself, Friends was probably one of my all-time favorites. They hung out at the coffee shop. They hung out at each other's houses. And they weren't like, well, I guess I have to go to the coffee shop to meet with my friends. They were like, hey, let's go get coffee. Meeting together wasn't an obligation to be a good friend. They wanted to hang out with each other because they loved each other. Because they were building each other up and they were strong when the other was weak and they helped. You need something, I got it. Let's work this out. That's what church is supposed to look like. Church is not supposed to be, since Jesus has come and gone, church is not supposed to be a building that we come to for out of obligation once a week. And then we go home and just try to be good. That is not what church is supposed to be. Church is supposed to be the book of Acts. People coming together, iron sharpening iron, people supporting each other, people praying for each other, people being there for each other. That is what church is supposed to be like. I talked about that. What I love about this part of the verse, it says, and the Lord added to their number. When I watch a show like Friends or How I Met Your Mother, I'm like, man, I want to be a part of that group. They look like they're having fun. And that's how I got in the Crossroad group. They were a group of people having fun together. And they said, come play volleyball with us. Come salsa dance with us. Come to lunch with us. Come to church with us. We're going karaoke tonight. You want to come? And sometimes it was fun stuff, but sometimes it was Bible. Hey, we're doing a Bible study. You want to come? And by the way, we're doing a Bible study Wednesday at 5:30 at the tavern. If anyone likes Wine Wednesday, if you're into drinking wine. We'll eat, we'll laugh, especially when George is there. We laugh. And we'll talk about Jesus. And we'll get closer to God. And if the tavern's not your scene, but you want to do this, then host one at your house. I can give you one to follow through, the one we're doing. Like, I don't even have to preview it. I literally show up with my computer. We eat, I push play, I push pause when it says to hit pause. We talk about the question on the screen, and afterwards we talk about what did we think about that. You don't have to be this scholar, this Bible scholar, to lead a Bible study. Mel and I were just talking about this. There's all kinds of them out there. You can even just read. Okay, let's read this chapter, the first book of Acts. Let's read the first one, and we'll just talk about it. No one has to have all the answers. You don't have to have a pastor there. It can be in person. It could be Zoom, whatever. The church is supposed to be a group of people getting close to God and then responding to that in the way that God leads them. That's what the church is supposed to be. And so, this week, I double-dogged Dario. Yeah, I feel like you guys have been getting off pretty easy the last 3 weeks, so I've got a harder one for you this week. Every week at the end, I issue a dare. A dare is 4 tangible things you can do, and the more of them you do, the closer you're going to get to God. You can do just 1, or you can do 3. It's like exercise. The more exercises you do, the better in shape you're going to get. You can do just 1, and that's good, but if you do 4 different types of exercise, you're going to be in better shape. So the dare is 4 tangible things you can do this week. So reach out to someone in this church, in this community. Invite them to get coffee, to join a small group, to attend an event together. I just did. You're all welcome to come to the tavern on Wednesdays. I got a speaker. We'll crank it up. Hopefully we'll be louder than the people around us. Pray and ask God, who are the people you have placed in my life to help me grow? How can I connect with them more deeply? I've got these friends, Lord, but how can I take that friendship to a deeper level? How can we work together to get closer to you? Read the book of Acts, especially book 2. What did that look like? What did the early church look like? What were they doing? When you read that, what stands out to you? And to engage, plan a gathering. Be like, hey guys, let's come over to my house. We'll have some pizza. We'll play some, maybe not Cards Against Humanity. That might go against. It's a great game, but maybe not for a church group. Kids against, I do have that one. Kids Against Humanity, whatever. Play life, don't play Trivial Pursuit. That game is terrible. Have a euchre tournament, whatever. Just get together and have fun. It doesn't always have to be these deep conversations, and that's great. But sometimes it's just building that relationship so that when you want to have the deep conversation, you feel good about it. Because you don't want to have a deep conversation with someone you only kind of know surface level. But the longer you're with someone, the more you're with them, the more you trust them, the more you're willing to have those hard, deep conversations with them. So how can you create a community of people and strengthen relationships with people either in this group or outside this group so that you can start to kind of hey, you should come be a part of this. It's awesome. We've got to flip our script on what we think church is. It's not a place. It is a people seeking God and responding to what they learn. And all of God's children said, amen.